after that and watch her try to continue to progress because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now. She's got a lot of good hand-eye coordination and ability to take the ball early and redirect. But the fan stuff is always fun for me because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get up to the top.
The most unforgettable showdown in Miami was never the championship match everyone expected. And that uncomfortable truth is something the tennis world seems hesitant to acknowledge openly. Two of the sport's brightest global icons stepped onto the court for a title clash that should have been an instant sellout, generating massive excitement from the moment it was announced. Yet the genuine spark and enthusiasm had already evaporated several days earlier. Ticket values started falling, the electric atmosphere quietly dissolved, and fans appeared to lose interest without much fanfare. So what triggered such a sudden shift in momentum? And how did one surprising competitor manage to steal the spotlight from the entire final without even stepping foot on the court for that decisive match?
Of course, I see some of the things, but for some reason, I see more negative than positive about myself. So I try not to really look deep, and whenever I see my picture or something about myself, I go to the next one because I don't know, like sometimes people just being rude and mean like to all of us, and I feel like it just doesn't really worth reading and going through.
If the thrilling style of Eala captivates you just as much as it does for us, be sure to smash that subscribe button right now and join us for every unforgettable highlight and breakthrough moment ahead. Right from the instant the Miami Open women's final was revealed, an odd feeling hung in the air. It wasn't some minor detail that only hardcore tennis enthusiasts would pick up on. Instead, it was an obvious heavy silence that revealed itself through rows of empty seats, tickets that remained unsold, and a surprising wave of indifference that caught everyone off guard for a marquee matchup starring two of the game's most prominent figures.
She works hard. Yeah, that's why we like her, because she's the face of the Philippines. Just aside from her talent, she's also thinking of the future.
I've only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
So when Eala plays, we all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
Are there actual gatherings?
Oh yeah,
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's
We plan our dinner.
On the surface, this final appeared unbeatable in every way. You had Eala Sabalenka, a formidable power player who dominates with her aggressive baseline game like few others in today's era, going up against Coco Gauff, the rising sensation who has long been positioned and promoted as the bright new face and future leader of women's tennis. This pairing was meant to be the ultimate dream encounter, the type of contest that television networks highlight and plan coverage for months in advance. The kind that corporate sponsors eagerly invest in without a second thought, expecting massive returns.
It's going to be an important match for both women. They're going to be both defending a lot of points coming up for the clay season, so this win can do a lot for them padding their points. Gauff, she wants to win this tournament badly. She said it before. It's her home WTA 1000 tournament, and she's going to be seeking her first title of the season and her fourth WTA 1000 and 12th career WTA title overall. Aryna, meanwhile, is looking to become the fifth woman in the Open era to complete the Sunshine Double, winning Indian Wells and Miami in the same year.
Yet something essential felt absent from the equation. Just a few days prior to that championship match, the whole vibe surrounding the Miami tournament had been completely taken over by a name that the event's organizers had never truly anticipated or prepared to handle. A competitor who wasn't supposed to dictate the storyline or influence the financial success of the entire competition. That name was Eala. And the second she departed from the tournament, the entire dynamic shifted dramatically. I'm genuinely concerned for how Coco will approach this Miami final now.
I'm so scared for Coco Gauff to play this final in Miami against Sabalenka. Sabalenka defeats Rybakina in her semi-final in 6-4, 6-3. And now this was not only a very dominant scoreline by Aryna, she also just played very strong, very hard-hitting tennis, and this makes me scared for Coco. But whenever these two play, it's never boring. And they're currently tied in their head-to-head with 6-all, so both have won 6 matches against each other. Although Aryna Sabalenka did win their last meeting, so let's see what Coco Gauff can do.
Initially, the warning signs were subtle enough that many chose to overlook them, especially if they were committed to maintaining the appearance that the event was proceeding perfectly as planned. Prices on the secondary ticket market started to soften a bit, then dropped more obviously, and eventually fell quite sharply. Activity on social media platforms around the final match leveled off instead of skyrocketing as anticipated. Networks and broadcasters who had counted on a big jump in audience numbers suddenly had to revise their projections lower. None of this added up logically, at least not if you still held on to the idea that the established order and traditional power structure in women's tennis continued to guide fan enthusiasm. However, that long-standing assumption had already begun to show cracks well before the final even took place. People checked the official rankings, applied the usual formulas, and reached what seemed like a straightforward conclusion. She simply hadn't proven herself worthy of elite status yet. But those statistics and numbers completely missed the real story. They overlooked the growing wave of fan interest pulling toward her personal journey. They failed to account for the exciting uncertainty in her matches that made them impossible to turn away from. And above all, they ignored how her energy and charisma connected with people well outside the usual circle of dedicated tennis followers.
Like, we're not concerned about anyone else right now. It's Alex Eala time. This is Alex Eala's moment. Our days, our dinners, our evenings are fixated on when she's playing. That's real tennis fandom right there. Love it.
$77 a month. Come on, just go get it. I mean, $77 for the year.
For the year, yeah.
I mean, that's a
month,
better.
come on.
That's a better upgrade than your monthly subscription. You got to go get that.
Have you
77.
ever heard of another player other than their family that planned dinners around one tennis player?
Not
No.
for me, just my family.
No, probably not even my family.
Depends what it was for dinner, but this is so great for tennis in general.
Yeah.
I think having players like
Right from her opening matches in the early rounds, an unusual pattern began to emerge. Spectators weren't merely observing her play, they were arriving ahead of schedule, remaining in their seats much longer than usual, and responding with far more passion and volume. Video highlights from her games didn't simply get shared, they went massively viral across every major platform. Individuals who rarely paid attention to the WTA Tour suddenly found a compelling reason to watch closely. It wasn't driven by her official ranking position or seeding status, but by something far deeper and more influential, a genuine emotional bond. And as she continued advancing with impressive victories, that bond evolved into unstoppable momentum that the tournament itself struggled to manage or contain. Each of her contests transformed from an ordinary step forward into something that felt like a true spectacle. The stadium stands filled in a manner that is uncommon for matches outside the later stages. The overall atmosphere evolved from standard courteous clapping into something resembling the intense support of a hometown crowd, even within a diverse city famous for split allegiances and short-lived focus. This shift became evident in digital metrics too, where her key moments and highlights regularly outperformed content from more established and higher-ranked players. By the time she progressed deeper into the tournament, the dominant storyline had completely reversed, and that's precisely when the contrast grew too obvious to dismiss. While athletes like Sabalenka and Goff bring impressive credentials and long-built fame, their ability to attract crowds has traditionally depended on organized promotion, structured expectations, and the assumption that fans will attend simply because they are expected to. Alex Eala completely overturned that conventional approach.
admirable to see a youngster really step up to the challenge. It looked like she was fading away physically towards the start of that second set, but she fought back. And the fight is something that we're going to constantly see for years to come if she can just keep going on this momentum.
Yeah,
What'd you see, Paul?
She just has an amazing spirit. I mean, the way she fought through that match. And look, it's one thing to win a bunch of big matches in a row. You see the leg taped up. You see her playing a terrific player like Jessica Pegula. And like you said, Coco, there were moments in there where we're like, okay, that's it. I mean, how many times did we get off the couch in the green room and start to walk in here?
Fans weren't filling the seats because they felt obligated or because marketing told them to. They were showing up because they were personally drawn to the experience and genuinely wanted to be there. That fundamental difference changes everything. It separates forced or scheduled interest from authentic, hard-earned engagement. It distinguishes a contest that looks significant only in official previews from one that genuinely feels meaningful and exciting as it unfolds live. As long as Alex Eala remained active in the competition, the Miami Open carried a vibrant, pulsating energy. Every time she moved forward in the bracket, the whole event grew larger in scale, louder in volume, and far more unpredictable in its appeal. Media outlets embraced and amplified her journey. Analysts and commentators adapted their commentary style to match the rising excitement. Even occasional or casual viewers started organizing their schedules specifically around her matches rather than sticking strictly to the published timetable. But then the critical turning point arrived. The Sabalenka versus Goff final should have been a guaranteed blockbuster, a guaranteed crowd puller and television ratings success that would serve as the ideal finale for such a prestigious tournament. Instead, it turned into a revealing example of what occurs when the competitor generating the most natural and organic excitement is suddenly removed from the picture. Ticket purchases slowed dramatically compared to the rapid surge seen throughout Eala's impressive run. Secondary market platforms showed a clear decline in demand and urgency. The lively discussions that had dominated online spaces gradually gave way to standard commentary and expected discussions. That's when the deeper realization began to settle in for many observers. This wasn't merely random chance or bad luck. This was tangible, measurable influence, the sort of powerful effect that cannot be artificially created, carefully timed, or simply substituted with another player.
Gracious to all her fans. She spends time with her fans, signs the autographs, takes the photos, and really just shows the Filipino community that it is all about the Philippines. And I still carry that flag with me no matter where I go across the world. And such a young woman at that has that wisdom of just what it means to play for her country.
Only 20 years old, such maturity, already a hero to her entire nation. I mean, it's basically Manny Pacquiao and Alex Eala, right? I mean,
That's it. That's it.
What Alex Eala delivered to the Miami tournament went far beyond pure technical ability or strong shot making. She brought a powerful storytelling force that drew people in deeply. She provided audiences with meaningful reasons to invest emotionally, going well past surface-level rankings or statistics. She built dramatic tension that felt intimate and relatable. She transformed relatively early-stage matches into must-see television and compelled the entire competition to orbit around her dynamic presence. And once she exited, that strong, attractive force vanished right along with her. This development raises a difficult question that the WTA will find challenging to address directly. How can an unranked or unseeded participant, one who wasn't viewed as a serious contender when the event began, somehow emerge as the primary force behind increased ticket sales, spikes in television viewership, and heightened overall fan involvement? Even more significantly, what does this reveal about the existing framework in professional tennis when that same emerging talent was originally dismissed or overlooked as a minor participant? Because this situation extends well beyond the boundaries of a single event in Miami, it highlights a clear disconnect. Alex Eala brought that divide into sharp focus as it unfolded live. She proved that real influence and star power in today's tennis landscape depend less on accumulated titles, official rankings, or predetermined seedings, and more on authentic presence, the ability to connect personally with fans, and the talent for generating memorable moments that viewers feel driven to follow. Remarkably, she achieved all of this in Miami without the usual heavy institutional support, extensive marketing budgets, or established networks that are normally necessary to reach such widespread attention.
You just asked about the switched courts. Well, I was actually shocked that they were considering canceling my match, or they were like giving me a couple options of the stadiums, and I was like, but what's the problem for Alcaraz and Fonseca start later? Because yesterday the night session started at 9 and then Mira was playing, so I was actually like really shocked the idea of like even canceling my match. But I just decided to play today just so I have, if I win, I have a day off and I have time to prepare, to recharge and everything. But I was actually shocked, to be honest. But I'm happy that they gave me options so I could choose what's the best for me.
This reality makes the contrast with the actual final even more striking when examined closely. Here were two exceptional competitors with proven track records, international fame, and substantial long-term investment in building their personal brands and reputations. Yet, when it came to generating genuine excitement and pulling power during this particular tournament, neither came close to the level of engagement that Alex Eala created across just a handful of her matches. This isn't simply a subjective viewpoint. It shows clearly in the hard data, attendance trends, and noticeable changes in how audiences behaved both while she was competing and immediately after her departure. It's evident in the overall atmosphere the event carried, and that intangible quality is something that simply cannot be manufactured or faked convincingly. Alex Eala delivered that special feeling to the fans. Once they had tasted it, every subsequent match and moment felt noticeably quieter, more routine, and far less pressing or essential. This is precisely why the WTA's choice, or more accurately their failure to fully grasp the situation, now appears less like a standard oversight and more like a significant lost chance to capitalize on a rare and exciting development happening right before their eyes. They didn't originate her rising popularity themselves, but they also didn't identify or nurture it quickly enough to fully take advantage of the opportunity. What made the entire scenario particularly awkward for the Women's Tennis Association was how clearly this difference played out in real time for everyone to witness. Online discussions gradually moved away from speculation about who might claim the championship trophy and toward a much more straightforward and direct question. Why did it seem as though the tournament had already reached its emotional peak well before the final match even started?
Indian Wells just ended, and because tennis never sleeps, we now go to Miami. And guys, I wonder, is the WTA ever gonna give us the graphics quicker? Because we always have to wait for them so freaking long. But I digress. Let's talk about this draw. In this draw, you will see Emma Raducanu, but she's not gonna play because she has pulled out due to an illness. Let's start with the fresh Indian Wells champion and the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. Now, Sabalenka's quarter doesn't look the worst out of all of the top players, but I'm excited to see Ostapenka in her quarter, as well as Svitolina and Zheng. And to go into more detail about her first match, of course, she's going to get a bye for the first round, and then she's going to play either against a qualifier or against Lee.
And that lingering question refused to fade away, because virtually everyone following the event had already lived through the true highlight of the tournament, and it had nothing to do with the top-seeded players, the prepackaged storylines, or the carefully designed bracket meant to build toward a grand, predictable conclusion. The peak centered entirely around Alex Eala. Once that truth became clear, the rest of the competition started to look quite different in comparison. Because none of this was supposed to unfold in such a way. Professional tennis at its highest level is carefully constructed around structure and predictability. Official rankings set clear expectations, seedings map out preferred paths, and major events are deliberately organized so that the most famous names collide in the later stages, where the pressure is greatest and the potential audience is at its largest. However, the Miami Open completely overturned that traditional logic. The matches that captured the most attention and passion were not the ones that had been strategically arranged in advance. What made Alex Ella's influence stand out so dramatically was how effortlessly and naturally it developed, without relying on the usual promotional machinery that typically supports rising stars. There were no large-scale pre-tournament advertising efforts aimed at presenting her as the central figure of the event. No heavy media campaigns designed to frame her as an essential must-watch personality. And absolutely no built-in assumption that she would become the driving force behind the tournament's overall narrative. She simply stepped onto the court and performed, and the fans responded by following her journey enthusiastically. That type of spontaneous, audience-driven rise is uncommon in any professional sport. And whenever it does occur, it often points toward something far more significant than just one strong performance in a single competition. It points toward a broader transformation taking place.
Now, Sabalenka, you should know more than anybody that one of the major tenets in sportsmanship is to win gracefully and to lose gracefully. If you're going to be a champion, you also must lose like one. And minimizing Coco's accomplishment in her French Open title is not going to make the pain any less.
In the past 2 weeks, I played really tough matches, really incredible players, and I played definitely better level than in the final. It was really, honestly, the worst tennis I played in the last, I don't know how many months, and the conditions were terrible, and she simply was better in these conditions than me, and I think it was the worst final I ever played.
And that is exactly what made the situation with final tickets so telling and revealing. It laid bare the growing divide between the players that the official system chooses to highlight and promote versus those with whom the actual audience forms a deep personal connection. On one hand, there stood Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, two competitors whose achievements, current rankings, and worldwide recognition position them as undeniable stars according to every conventional standard in the sport. On the other hand, there remained the lasting influence of a player who had already been eliminated from the bracket, yet continued to cast a bigger shadow over the entire event than the finalists themselves. That scenario is far from ordinary, and it creates clear discomfort for any governing body that depends heavily on predictable outcomes and structured promotion to generate its most important moments. What adds even more complexity to the situation is that this observation should not be interpreted as any form of criticism toward the two athletes who ultimately reached the final. Both Sabalenka and Gauff performed at the high level expected of them, displaying outstanding professionalism, elite skill, and the kind of consistent execution that fully justifies their elevated status in the game. Discovery remains one of the most potent and exciting elements in all of sports. It creates that special sensation for fans where they feel they are witnessing the early stages of something special before it becomes widely recognized and mainstream. That particular excitement cannot be planned or scheduled on a timetable. It cannot be artificially generated through marketing efforts, and it absolutely cannot be duplicated or substituted easily once that special spark has faded away.
I think this was probably, well, today was a bit more straightforward, but this week has been a lot of long matches, and, through the battles, I was having fun, and, it is nice to get through in 2 sets today, though.
And boy, did you. Safe to say that Coco's got her groove back. Let's talk about, it has been a struggle. Early departure from Indian Wells, you hurt your arm, but now you're feeling great. You're playing this kind of great tennis. Take us through this journey over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, after Indian Wells, there was thoughts of maybe not playing this tournament. And
This is the core reason why the WTA's underlying sense of missed opportunity runs deeper than just one specific decision during the tournament. It exposed a fundamental limitation within the current organizational framework. Despite all its careful planning, logical structures, and established protocols, the system still has difficulty identifying and supporting genuine momentum at the exact moment when it is building and gaining strength. By the time that momentum becomes impossible to ignore, the best window for fully embracing and amplifying it has often already slipped away. And that stands as the most important lesson emerging from this year's Miami Open. Fans begin searching for that unique spark and excitement. When they cannot locate it in the expected places, they notice the absence immediately. So the conversation now moves beyond simply analyzing what unfolded in Miami. The real focus shifts to the future. The next time an emerging talent like Eala begins generating that same kind of powerful, organic momentum, will the existing system identify it quickly enough to support and elevate the moment properly? Or will it once again find itself observing passively from the outside, while the fans themselves determine who truly deserves to stand at the center of attention?